I am streaming. Yes, it's hard to believe, but here I am. And so I'm checking the live stream to see if everything's working. I am streaming. And it looks like it is. So with that, we're going to just get to work. Now my previous hour and a half long video this morning, which was not streamed, kind of went over a good bit of fix-ups, you might say. Like for example, here we see that when a car gets panned down to simulate that camera move, the problem is that her body's getting cut off. So hence I created a little patch, and the colors look wrong because I needed to match the colors of her levels rendering, in other words the effects in the schematic view that color her, but not match the overall color correction of the whole scene. So then when you put it all together, wango bango, looks pretty good. Now we're going to have to go into Akari at some point here and fix her eyes. Not totally satisfied with that, but I think the order of the day is going to be our shadows on our ninja guy. So I actually have to find that level. There's some chatter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit auto markers, and that way I can get a preview. Okay, and it's really hard to see actually. Okay, up to that point we're okay. Or I should say at that point we're okay. So it's really hard to see the issues. So I'm going to go ahead and mute that layer and mute that layer. Mute that layer. So that hopefully I can see the opentoonz is auto saving. So we want to see the keyframes right there. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to have the sunglasses on for this. So let's just go. We got to start going in one drawing at a time. Hit the B key, so we're here. And what we want to do is, right there's a big jump. Probably a little bit of erase. Okay, if that kind of grows a little bit, that's okay as long as it's smooth. Right there, there's a little hiccup right there. Alright, brush. It's probably, yeah. I wonder what the color is on that. Yeah, it's not even black. Alright, so we'll make this a little bigger so that it's not a tragedy if opentoonz uses the default brush. Okay. So now we just got to go through here and smooth it out. I'm going to say erase a little bit. We can always paint it back in. But yeah, I don't want a bunch of chatter in the animation. Okay, so there's a little bit of a bulb out there that we want to see. Okay, so right here I'm thinking this should be cut in just a little bit more. Yeah, let's cut that in. Not too bad. Okay, right there. See, it's sequences like this that become a problem because his pose really doesn't change much. So we need to keep it a little more consistent. And again, this is kind of tricky because it's hard to see. There's not that much contrast. So I think through there it's probably okay, although that frame is a little winky. Okay, chatter right there. Oops. Gotta have the eraser, not the brush. Okay, when he stands up there. I think we're okay from there, actually. So with that in mind, what I'll do is I've got the range set, so I think what I'll do is hit Control R so it actually does a rendered version of the sequence. So obviously we're going to have to definitely change that rim light so it's not as extreme, but hopefully once this plays around we'll see if there's still some chatter, but it kind of looks realistic. Not great, but not bad. That's okay. Okay, so yeah, it's really over on the left is where we're having the problem now. So let's save our work, and we'll go back here. So if it's on the left, then I'm going to say, yeah, I can see that. I wasn't even paying attention to that. So that's horrible. So let's start about there, I would say. Yeah, maybe there. Okay, cool. So we're going to work here. Brush. Yep, I think that's going to be all right. Yeah, that would explain the chatter. No doubt about it. Just being a little too lazy when I originally animated that, because I was trying to whip it off really quick. And when you whip stuff off really quick, you usually pay for it later. Okay, I don't like that. Let's chop that back out with the eraser. So we can kind of get away with a bit because it is in constant motion. But there's a limit to how far we can go. Okay, that's probably okay. Okay, so there's a little. What I find is the minute you stop doing what I'm doing right now, where you really go back and just toggle between keyframes, you'll like pretty much always find that it's not up to scratch. Or what happens is you get all that chatter in there. So I'm going to put the shades back on, just kind of give my eyeballs a break. And there, it's done caching. So yeah, see, now there's some movement in it, but it kind of goes with him moving around. And plus, when we turn down the glow, it's probably not going to look as, we're not going to see it quite as well. The other thing is, I think that the shadow really could be a little bit more transparent as well. So let's go here. Let's look at it in rendered mode, or preview mode as opentoonz likes to call it. And I'm going to go back, transition over here to the effects, which obviously this scene is quite a mess of effects. And this is N1 shadow. I'm just looking for the node that is highlighted. Excuse me, it's hard to find. I guess that's it right there. Yes, so we've got the blur in there, but we don't have the transparency. So let's insert a image adjustment, adjust levels, and in the adjust levels, let's turn the transparency down a bit, which is effectively the same as turning the alpha up. Alpha output is turned down. Okay. Now we're going to deal with something that's going to be a little tricky. By the way, have we got anybody watching? Yeah, we got 2 watching. Okay, so what we got to do here, this is definitely going to be a little on the tricky side. What we need to do is keyframe the, well, let's turn down the glow. First thing we definitely know for sure is that the glow is obnoxious. So that's got to be turned down. So I believe that was up here somewhere. Bear with me. There's the floor. The floor has the raylet plug-in. Ninjas. Yeah. There's the glow. Okay. Let's look at the intensity. I think this is the right plug-in. Here's hoping. Let's turn that from 100 to 200 and see what happens. Okay, okay. Not bad, but not great. Let's jump forward to, yeah, it still seems excessive to me. Now if we turn it off, yeah, that's excessive, all right. Wow, that is really obnoxious. So let's keep splitting it in half until we're, there we go. That's kind of more what I was looking for, I think. Okay, so now we have the problem with the rim light. Where's the rim light? I believe it is this one. Let's turn it off. Yep, there's our rim light. So the rub with the rim light, there's opentoonz auto saving, is that we basically need to keyframe the offset. So what I'm going to do, actually, excuse me, is I'm going to go to the beginning of the sequence, which is here, I believe. Yes. I'm going to go to the beginning of the sequence. Well, I guess I need to actually go into it a bit so I can see my guys. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a keyframe on the rim light here, and then I'm going to go to when it's a close-up and change it probably to closer to where it's set now, which it's set at an offset of 4 millimeters. So that's easy, a good round number. So I need to make sure I'm on the right column here. So I'm going to it's ninjas, and I'm going to select that column actually. Column meaning level in opentoonz parlance. And then what I got to do is just scan through here and find. This is actually really an exceptional scene in that I've never dealt with one that has this many keyframes in it. All right, excuse me, sorry guys. All right, so let's change this to 2. Okay, I'm gonna say maybe 1 actually. Okay, how about 1.5? Not bad. I like that. Okay, and then can we set a keyframe like this? And I'll just retype the number in to see if maybe that makes a difference to opentoonz, because it's not giving me a keyframe indicator here. So just so I don't go insane, I'm going to write down the number 141. Okay. And now what I'm going to do, since that's the frame that I'm on, now I'm going to go to where it's more of a close-up. Okay. And now I'm going to go to the body highlight. And I think 4 was probably a little extreme. Let's add a keyframe here and make it 3. Okay, so now the question becomes, because I can't really, yeah, it's keyframing. It's adjusting it, so that's good. Okay, so now the question becomes, where do I want it to start to tail off? So I'm going to say actually right here. I don't know. I think it should be hitting the 3 mark right about here. So I started at 141, and what frame was I just on? I guess I can't know unless I open up the function editor. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open up the function editor, and I'm gonna grab this frame, or I'm sorry, this level. Okay, and there it is, and I should see. I don't see a. So this is a little tricky. I gotta find the. Those are all the. It's shot 02. Oh, I see. I'm looking at the wrong column. That would explain a few things. So hopefully we'll see the plugin, and we don't see the plugin. So now what we have to do is okay, it's under FX. Okay, and that would be body highlight. There we go. So let's grab that, and frankly, offset X is what we're looking for, and it looks like everything's there that we wanted. Okay. So frame 141 is where it started. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to boldly turn that that preview off. Well, actually, I turned it off in my main view, but I actually have it here in the small viewer. So that's cool. I get the best of both worlds. All right, and what I'm going to do is I want to find the. I'm going to look here in my normal view here. I'm basically looking at the where he's smaller. Here it comes. Okay, I'm going to say, okay, so now is that keyframe right there got anything to do with this effect? One way to find out, and that's to go look at the. No, that's just showing me the column. So the gist of this is that I want the keyframe where it's set at 1.5 millimeters to be starting at the beginning of the shot. So it really needs to be on 92. So let's just go here to the offset, find out where it is, and let's select across here and drag this up to 92. Okay. And now the question becomes, where should it go ahead and transition? Well, I want it to transition basically about halfway. I want it to reach the max right about here. So 179. Okay. Let's hop back here and let's look at where we have it. Right now it happens too late. So I'm going to grab these two and I'm going to drag them up, and hopefully opentoonz is going to interpolate this for me correctly. Okay, with that in mind, I'm going to hit transition here again, and I'm going to select the column with the ninjas, and I'm going to hit set auto markers, and then I'm going to run a schematic. I don't want the schematic, I want the function editor. And I'm going to go to the body. Okay. So let's just look at this real quick. To me, it does not look to me like it's doing the transition that I had asked for. So this is extremely clunky. Very, very clunky. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and pull up the the settings and see if it's doing what I said. Well, it is. It is doing what I said. So it's going from 1.5 here, and if we turn on the render, obviously, I think 1.5 might be too much though. Okay, so I think I know what to do. What I'm going to do is go ahead and reopen the function editor. And what should we say here? We're doing a steady change, and it really needs to start at about 160. So basically we need to take the first keyframe where it's set at 1.5 and duplicate it at 160. Although I would also say that I really don't want it at 1.5. I'm thinking I want it at 1. Okay, so where does it let's take a peek here. So it's gonna be 1 at 92. It's also gonna be 1 at 165, but then it's gonna be 3 at pretty close to where it already is, but let's say 175. So yeah, that change actually takes place pretty quickly. I guess I want to rethink that. Let's make it 160, not 165. Okay, cool. So now we'll open the function editor, and I'm going to keep it in this same window. I'm going to drag it on down here. And okay, so here's what we're doing. What we're going to do is go into the effects, and we're going to go down to the body highlight effect. There it is. Okay, and gosh, I wish there was a way to instantly turn off everything except the plugin I'm looking at. Mainly because I just don't really want to have to fish through. I wonder if I double click this. Nope, there it is anyway. Okay, so what did I say? I said that we want it to be 3 at 175. Okay, so that's fine. This is easy enough. So I'm going to take this and set it to 175. Then we're going to come back here. We're going to change this from 1.5 to 1. Okay, and then we're going to take this, Control C, and then what did I say? At 160. So let's go to frame 160. And come on, opentoonz, don't be silly. Control V. Okay. So now this is interesting math. Oh, okay. Okay. That'll be interesting. I wonder why it has a minus there. It's growing from 1 to 3, but yet it see. Okay, so we were getting some anomalies in the preview because once opentoonz has buffered a rendered frame in the preview, if you go back, you got to refresh it twice or you'll see the old version. So I think we're in good shape. That means I can take this. I've already got my preview range selected, so I should be able to go ahead and generate a preview and see what the whole sequence looks like. To me, that's looking pretty good. I'm pretty satisfied with that. So I'm going to rewind to the beginning of the segment. So we should see a rim light of 1 millimeter at the beginning, and then a quick transition as he does the barrel roll to a rim light of about 3 millimeters. Let's see what happens. Looks good. Yep. Looks good. I'm satisfied with that. Okay. I think we're in good shape. So let's kill that. File, save, and very good. We're knocking out quite a few problems here today so far. So I'm feeling good about that. As I mentioned in my earlier non-live streamed blab earlier today, the goal is going to be ultimately to crank out about 1,200 frames of complete finished animation, or show I should say, in a week. In other words, a minute a week is kind of the goal. And the only way I'm going to be able to hit that is I can no longer be guessing how to do what I want to do. So I see something in opentoonz that I want to accomplish. I can't be trying to figure out how to do it. I have to know how to do it. So I got to know the software well enough that it's becomes purely a question of deciding what to do, not how to do it. Frames quickly, and don't do a conventional render. Just hit Control R and have it generate a preview in a window like this. It renders way faster, and then if you want to, you can click this right here and save the images out in a folder. So we have to do some things with her eyes, no question about it. So yeah, the chatter in his shadow doesn't bother me anymore. The rim lights look good. Now we're going to have to deal with, okay, we've got the rim light there as well. So that's something I want to look at. I have to now remember, do I have my ninjas, is that in the same column? I'm thinking it must be. So let's just look here. We're looking for the column or the level. I try to use the correct parlance. Yeah, ninjas, here he is. Okay, it gets broken here. Okay, it gets broken when it goes to that shot, but then it picks up again here. So that's good. So obviously we still have to paint the background and all that. It would probably be, I'm going to leave this up in the air at the moment, because it could be argued that this rim light should be dropped back to 1 millimeter, and then over the course of these frames right here, when he finally gets to, you know, about here, it should be back up to 3. For the moment, I'm going to leave it just because it looks kind of dramatic. And I'm thinking, and plus, we're seeing him from behind. So in other words, the sun is shining from the opposite direction now because we've turned around. And so, you know, could you argue that maybe those rim lights would be a little more aggressive from this point of view? Maybe. So I think bottom line is it looks cool. And by the way, I got to say, there's another thing that I just thought of. That the lines on these guys' wraps, that's all got to be animated yet. Okay. So I'm going to pull up my reference material, which is the stuff that's been done so far. And so as you can see right here, they're the wraps, you know, they've got the lines and actually highlights and shadows as well. So there's something that's still missing from this sequence. So that could be a problem. We'll definitely have to get to that. So now the question becomes, what about this column? This is an interesting sequence. I'm going to go ahead and put this in auto mode and loop it. And actually, we don't want to be in preview mode. So it's a little hokey. I will be the first to admit. We're going from this. Okay, so from a physics standpoint, does the action of the vase actually make sense? Probably not, but it does look kind of cool. So maybe we'll just go with it anyway. If we continue through to the next sequence, we'll see it. It's turning, and then he catches it. And actually, I also inserted a still image here at the end so that it stops. I wonder if there's some weird scaling or something going on there. I don't know, it all goes by pretty fast, so I think we might be okay with that. But, and then of course, where does it go from there? You know, does he breathe a sigh of relief? Got to do the whole background for that. So let's deal with one thing at a time. If we check this out from a rendered standpoint, I would personally say that the shadows at this point seem a little dark to me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take that back out of preview mode, but go back up here to this view where it's in preview mode, and I need to open my schematic view again. This is by far the most extensive and messy schematic I've had in any scene I've done so far. But I kind of knew what I was getting into. So which column is this? This is called shot 2. I suppose it's called that because it's the second shot of the ninja. So there it is. And it looks to me like the shadows are on a different layer. Excuse me. I'm like belching into the microphone here. So what we want to do is we want to turn the opacity of that shadow down a little bit. So of the vase is slightly problematic, as you can see. It is, yeah, that shadow right there is slightly darker, and that is of course called vase shadow. And there it is, and here's the reason it's not quite right, is that's turned off. Okay, so let's go to adjust our levels. Why is the alpha that low? Basically we want to have it sort of harmonize with the other shadows. Okay, so now the question becomes, what about a rim light, right? And honestly, we probably should put a rim light on the wall as well. It's such a cool looking effect, we might as well use the darn thing. So let's go to Ninjas 2, or Shot 2. Looks like there's no effects on that yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, Control C and Control V. Okay, where did it put it? Hate that when things like jump around. I don't think it did it. Okay, forget it. Let's do it this way. We're going to do a light effect, body highlight. And then what I'm going to do is just look here. I had 153, 157, 196. Okay. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to have a Y offset, I think, of 2. Actually, no. That should probably be 1. But the X offset, gosh, that should maybe be 2. Nope, I actually think it needs to be more. That looks pretty good. I think my color in this shot should probably be a little more aggressive. Okay. Wonder what happens when you push the invert. Ooh, that's definitely not what you want. I should have guessed that's what it would be. Now this has a blur on it, but it's fairly subtle. Let's see what happens if we crank the blur up. I feel like that takes us away from an anime aesthetic. So we want to have enough of a blur that it kind of has a sense of the anime look. But yeah, I'm thinking, let's make the X even bigger. Yes, but let's make it more transparent. So this is really quite cool because we're really letting opentoonz do a lot of the work for us. So I'm going to take this even further and see if we can get away with it. What I'm thinking is if we take this and use it to give us a little bit of a duotone, and then go ahead and blur it at 2, and then actually run the plugin twice, and have the second one be the rim light. So I wonder if I hit Control C, Control V. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to duplicate it. I'm not seeing that anywhere. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert another body glow. And that's going to be 1, 1. Okay. So 1, 1. We'll leave it at white for the moment. And I'm going to turn that down to 0.5. Okay, so I actually think that looks pretty good. We're getting more of the effect I was after. So I'm just gonna kind of cheat a little and let opentoonz do a little more of my work for me here by adding that color kind of automagically. Okay, so now with that, let's switch back to here, and we're shot 2. Let's go auto markers, and let's just do a preview to make sure that we're looking good. There's really not much that happens in this sequence other than the ninja slides his arm and gets the vase going. So I'm thinking that looks pretty good. Okay, good. Super duper. So now we've gotten down to here. the question becomes one of certainly backgrounds here. I don't think I want to do the background on this live stream because I'm going to want to really step back and think about the perspective. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm making this up as I go along. Okay, so at this juncture, let's grab a preview of the whole darn thing. I'm going to let that render for a second. Come back here. Hey, Oxer. Okay, I would like to add, if I was doing project on the scale you're playing, I'd have to spin on the major action scene 3. Yeah, no problem. I play that, then play back the animation until I felt it was right, then redo it in 3D, but whatever works. Yeah, I mean, I kind of did that in the sense that I did all of the action was drawn in Blender, and so the 3D move is baked into the rendered frames. So that means I'm having to adjust everything in opentoonz to that. But I think when I start my short, I'll make all my models and set pieces in 3D and render it in cell shading. It's a good way to work. I mean, if you're firm on your character designs, you might be able to save yourself a good bit of time. I've considered doing it that way. Go ahead and create simple rig like not game quality. Game quality 10 years ago, let's say. Rigs of all the characters so that I can actually do the animation in 3D and then either draw over it or do a cell rendering. Make everything faster because then visual imaging. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it's not a bad way to work. Let's go ahead and okay. So it should be going back to the beginning. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, okay. I mean, I think we're in good shape. We got to deal with the Kari's eyes. So with that, let's deal with the Kari's eyes. This is like one thing at a time here. But on, other than that major job I got to do on this background, this shot is getting close to done. How long is it? Once it's all said and done, 317 frames. What is that divided by 24? It's about 15 seconds. So, in that terms of the kind of pace I want to have, it's pretty lame-o. But I guess since I'm here right now, since I'm on this frame, I think I would like to actually sketch in the background. So let's go to here, and we're back to the original ninjas. Yes, right here. So what I want to do is insert a level, and I'm just going to do this with the good old my paint brushes. I'm just going to draw, and it sticks in a frame for me, and we need to turn this off. Okay, so now what we need to do is evaluate. We're going from this to this. So if this okay, so the room, I'm just thinking about what the perspective would be. I'm totally spitballing. And I reserve the right to change my mind. Okay, so that distance, it does seem like the distance is exaggerated. So, however, and also the way his feet are going. Okay, actually this should be on the other side of this. So this would be Akari. This would be Akari's bed. Alright, and just to keep things simple, I'm going to run this all the way down to the end of the scene. and while I'm thinking about it, set my auto marker so that that's what I'm going to preview. So let's preview that for the moment. Okay, and so there you can see what the problem is we actually have to animate the camera move. This is where it becomes somewhat difficult. But that's alright. We're going to face the challenge. So now, let's get a little more creative with what's going on here in her room. I'm going to just put in some sort of indicators. There's going to be some accoutrements back here on the wall, and they're going to be very, very faint, hard to see because it's super dark in the room. And the beams from the light, even though, to be fair, this is the lighting on the vase is a little whacked, okay, because technically this would be coming from behind in this way, but we're sort of treating it as if it was coming in this way, but the way it is on the vase almost like makes it seem like it's coming that way. So what we're really trying to sell is the idea that this edge of the frame is almost perpendicular to the window. Is that accurate from a physics standpoint? Probably not. Does it look cool? Yeah, it looks cool. So okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be smart about this. We're going to insert a scale keyframe, a position keyframe, just so that we can get to the other shot. Okay, so there we have a stupid, idiotic anomaly, once again, that we talked about this morning. That's opentoonz does that like all the time. Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. But what do we got here? Okay, I'm going to say what we've got here amounts to a slight move this way and probably a slight push in. Okay, then this key has to be copied. Boom. To roughly there, I would say. So obviously it's a okay, it feels like that's starting late. And I don't know if it ends late, but I didn't mean to open the function editor right there. No, it's not. It was actually ending at the right time-ish. Every time I accidentally double-click those, of course, it opens a function editor. So what I'm going to do is just move the function editor up into the other window so it's not doing that every time. Okay. So my sense is that that should even go a little further. Okay. Alright, so now we have the question of why is this guy at a completely different scale. And you can see that I keyframed it. You can see right here it was keyframed because apparently I was running into this problem like crazy before and having to compensate for it. So therefore, and what opentoonz has done is sort of reversed. It's like it changes scale sporadically, so then you use the animate tool to compensate for it, and then it switches back, and you're having to, you know, there's some weird stuff going on there. Okay, so the good news is, because this is, because I did it the way I did it, I could, what's throwing me is not the room, it's the bloody sky, because that sky isn't even supposed to be there, remember. But yeah, that feels pretty good. So what's going on with the sky? Well, the sky needs to be gotten rid of, my friends. Gotten rid of. Check it, baby. Check it. So, is this it? Yeah. That's it. Why the heck is that even in there? Why is the sky in there? I'm going to grab this whole sequence and delete it. Cool. So now, I'm getting closer here, folks. This is actually starting to look kind of fun. Alright, so that pins around. We got our nice rim lights that are going to be happening, and then wongo bongo. Okay. So the question then becomes, why don't we just paint this? Now, I'm going to look at my chat. I'm going to say, hey, Inio-san, I'm checking in now. I haven't been looking at comments. So, Oxer, pretty good at modeling, so that's not the issue. Everything's based on time. Amen, brother. Everything's based on time. Just got in, Inio-san. Quick question. That vessel, is it? Yeah. No. Yes and no. I'll go ahead and just show you what I did. Bear with me for half a second. It never hurts for me to recap this stuff, because then I'm learning it. Because there's always problems that I'm overcoming, and then I want to remember what I did, you know, to solve various problems. So basically, what I did initially was created the vase in 3D. So if I toggle around, you can see the orientation of it's all screwed up. But if I remember correctly, yeah, I converted it from a essentially a lathed object, which is two curves, one curve serving as the bevel object for another curve. Okay, so that's how I shaped the vase. And then I went ahead and converted it to a mesh because I knew I wanted to do UV mapping, which, by the way, ultimately I wound up not doing. I wound up using regular generated mapping. But so anyway, the upshot, even though this is definitely in the wrong orientation right now, was that let's see if solid mode rendered. So in the rendered mode, you can see what I did was I just assigned a material that was essentially a toon shaded material, cylindrical mapping as you would expect, and then I just rendered it out. So from the camera point of view, I rendered out the whole thing because initially when the vase is spinning around, it is let's see here, let's go to solid mode. Okay, where is it? Yeah, anyway, so it's spinning from the top view, and then I just animated it and changed the empties that it was locked to so that I could at least get the frames I needed, and that was that. And so if you look at it in rendered mode, you can see there it is. Is it perfect? No, you could probably improve it, but remember, I can always go back and re-render that sequence if I want to, and it'll just import back into opentoonz. So it's the short answer to your question is it's just an image sequence, just a plain old image sequence. Okay, and you can see there's a little bit of an issue there with the vase with its positioning. So I do want to look at, you can see that I used two different segments of it, the top segment, and then I actually took individual frames to sort of get the thing positioned, because it has to sit still there for a few frames, and then when he hits the table, so it's sitting there, and then boom, he hits the table, and then one could argue that there's no way it would jump to there and start spinning in the opposite direction. But here's the thing, when it was doing it in the way that was correct physically, it didn't feel right. And when I reversed the frame so that it started spinning in the opposite direction, it looked better. So I thought, you know, I'm just going to go with what looks better, because it all goes by really fast. Alright? So, you know, and, you know, the whole thing takes way less than a second, and then now you're into this. So, anyway, you guys can take me to the cleaners for allowing that to get into the show looking like that, but again, I can always change it too. So this is that vase, and so I think I'm gonna hate myself for doing this, but I'm gonna hit the animate tool, if I change the positioning, this is going to bite me. I know this is going to bite me. But there you go. So now, actually that looks okay. So when he grabs it, his hand sort of gets it to freeze. So again, this is the kind of stuff that it goes by so quick, you know, it's like, is it a problem? Well, the spinning vase and the static vase that he catches are on two different levels. So if I wanted to adjust it to be a little more convincing of the positioning, I could do that. So Inio-san says, cool. Well, correct. Thanks, man. I appreciate the comment. You know, I'm trying. It's a lot of work. Okay. But it's fun. We're having fun. Okay, so now the good news is that this frame, all I have to do is paint it once. I don't have to paint it multiple times. And if I hit save all, presumably, okay, so this is actually a really good exercise right here. I've got GIMP 2.10 open, and I've got this My Paintbrush drawing of the background that I did right here natively in opentoonz. So that means that I have to find this picture on disk so that I can edit it in GIMP. So what I'm going to do is I am going to hope against hope that I can figure this out. So I'm actually dinking around with my mouse right now trying to get over to here. Okay, and this is, by the way, this is the Fast Stone image viewer. 6.3 is what I'm using. And so now the question would be, where the heck would opentoonz have put it? I think it would have put it in drawings. And what's the name of the column? It's column 12, which isn't very useful. These are all... So bear with me, guys. This is an important thing to be able to do. You know, ask yourself, if I draw something in opentoonz, but I don't want to tighten up the painting in opentoonz, I want to use a little more industrial strength image editing program. Could be Krita, but you guys know I'm down on Krita. I'm down on Krita. Wish I wasn't, but I'm down on Krita. So now the question becomes, what the heck is in each of these? I have to look in these folders because I just don't know where opentoonz would have put it. So these are clearly folders that opentoonz has created. Ah, here's some TIFFs. Okay, could it be in extras? That's interesting. That's the... Okay, so it might be in here. This is the Ninjas Enter Extras folder. I'll bet you that's where it is. Should be down towards the bottom. I'll bet you it's right down here. Hold your fingers. Make a mental note. Make a mental note. opentoonz, if you draw something with the My Paint brushes in opentoonz, it stores it in the project, which in this case, I don't know if I need to show you guys all this, but on my L drive there's a folder called animate, and in the animate folder there is a subfolder called toonz, which is the toonz project folder. Okay, and under toonz it's got Val's Animate, which is sort of the working title here, and then within Val's Animate it's got all the standard opentoonz folders that opentoonz creates when you create a project. Scenes, drawings, extras, inputs, outputs. You guys have seen that probably. It's the extras folder. Extras folder. You go into the extras folder, you go into the subfolder. Boy, this should be an opentoonz quick tip, shouldn't it? You go into the extras folder and then the folder that has the same name as the scene. Now the first thing I'm going to do is save this. And I'm going to okay. Theoretically, I should probably save this in the folder for the scene. But to an extent, I want to kind of do things the opentoonz way. The thing is, when I export this, I think if I'm going to save them, in other words, if I change the XCF file, which can have all kinds of layers and stuff, and I save that so I've got it in case I need to access those layers again later. But I'm also exporting it as a TIFF file so that it comes right back into opentoonz. Well, if I do that, then I hit Control S, I hit Control E, boom, boom, boom. I don't think GIMP is going to keep track of two different paths. It's going to want to keep resaving it in the other folder. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the XCF file in the same folder as the opentoonz extras. Okay. And I'm even going to give it the same name. In other words, I'm choosing not to fight with opentoonz at this point. I'm going to do it its way. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, let's just have some fun. Let's create a rectangle. And I didn't really need to do that, but let's go ahead and fill. By the way, GIMP 2.10, I'm actually kind of lame on some of the hotkeys. Most of them are the same as past versions of GIMP, but it's not like 100%. So I'm having to do more clicking than I usually like to do. And I haven't had it that long to go in and set my hotkeys myself. So anyway, you can modify the settings in preference, and I believe the project for where stuff will be saved. Okay, Oxer. Yes, you can. Yes. You can change the parent folder, you can change the project, you can add custom paths to opentoonz. But at the end of the day, when you're in the midst of the project, opentoonz still wants to put things where it wants to put them. So then what you'll find as your project grows more complicated is you have to make a choice. Are you going to do it the opentoonz way and trust it to sort of, you know, you drew a picture, boom, it saved it. Well, where did it save it? I got it. It must be allergy season. My nose itches. Okay. So are you going to fight that? For the most part, what I've been doing is fighting it. I create folders on my own hard drive where I know exactly where I'm putting things that are pertinent to the current scene, and then I drag and drop them through loading, not importing. I load them into opentoonz. So that means they stay where they are on the hard drive. If I change them there, they get changed in opentoonz. In this case, I'm choosing not to bother with any of it. I'm going to say, look, instead, here's what I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn where opentoonz put it. I found out where opentoonz put it, and now I'm going to say, okay, now that I know where it's going to put these things, that's okay. As long as I know, we're in good shape. Okay, so that's the concept. All right, so now I'm going to be liberal with my layers here, and I'm going to draw another rectangle. Oops, I don't want the fill tool. I want the rectangle tool. So let's do this. And I love the fact that we can tweak it like this just a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it basically the color of the floorboards, if you will. Not exactly, but and let's put that in, I'm thinking multiply mode maybe. Sorry. Diggity dog, darn it. I guess we don't want multiply. We want okay, let's get back on track here. Go to normal. Okay, yeah. I think for now what I'll do is just crank down the opacity. Okay, so now what I want to do, stupid nose. Alright. But yeah, you know, I'm glad you said that though, Oxer, because what you're bringing up a more pertinent point that you might realize. When you say that you can modify the settings, what I want to say is, and this has informed my rants over the last couple weeks. The fact is, there's a lot of things you can do and a lot of things the software allows you to do, in theory. And then you get into a project with the actual, where am I putting things, how am I keeping track of my work, how do I do, you know, what order do I do things in? And you find out that, yeah, it's got that feature, but the feature's implemented in kind of a strange way or whatever. And there's a lot of features in opentoonz that are fairly opaque. Like, I don't actually know exactly what even happens when you change the parent folder for a level. Some other things that are a bit opaque. importing a level from one scene or one project to another scene or project? Does it actually take all the assets for that level and copy them into the new project? From what little I've tested, which isn't exhaustively, but from what I can see, no, it doesn't. What it does is it references the stuff. So that means if you go back and change it in the original scene, which always happens, all of a sudden those changes are going to propagate over here. So you got to be a little careful about what the software says it's going to manage for you, and you've got to really know how it's doing it and what it's doing. Otherwise, it will bite you in the hiney. In the hiney, I say. So now what I'm going to do, just for kicks and giggles, is I'm going to use kind of a little more of a bluish-ish brush. I'm just really making this up as I go along, but I'm going to grab, in GIMP it's the P key, by the way. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-A so that I have nothing selected. And I'm going to take the brush, and I'm going to set the opacity. Now this is interesting. Over here, this drags really quickly, but over here, not so much. So what does that tell me? That tells me that GIMP, when you try to drag the level around on a layer, the opacity, it's every half second it's trying to update it in real time and show you how it's changed. I have to say, I would prefer don't update it in real time. Let me drag it to here and then let me see it. Now that's sacrilege because nobody wants to work that way anymore. That's like 10 years ago. And I agree, unless it's choppy. If the idea is that it's going to update in real time, but then when you actually drag it around, it's like that. That's not real time. Now maybe the granularity of that can be adjusted or something. I don't know. But okay, so what I'm going to do here, where's my brushes settings? Like I said, I'm getting freshly acclimated to GIMP. Oh yeah, my brushes are over here. I really want something with a little more. Actually, this one might be good. I've used this one on lots of things. Yeah, okay. So now, size isn't like amazingly awesome, but I want some better dynamics. Let's do basic dynamics and see if that. Okay, that doesn't seem to affect the opacity. The dynamics in GIMP is pretty deep. Okay, i.e. okay, thank you Oxer for following up on that. My project link opentoonz. Okay, then save all the external files to these folders when you work outside of opentoonz. Bookmark the folder under your shortcuts in Windows. What's unclear is what you mean by link opentoonz to this folder. Can you explain that better? How do you link opentoonz to that folder? Are you talking about in your opentoonz preferences when you set a let's go into the preferences. I believe it's under general. Yeah, are you referring to the additional project locations? Because if you okay, that still doesn't really, that doesn't quite address the problem that I'm describing, because all that does is let you save the entire. So I showed earlier, I showed that hierarchy of folders that opentoonz creates. No matter what you do, when you create a project, opentoonz creates that hierarchy of folders. So now the question you're answering is, where do you want that hierarchy to be? I have no problem with where the hierarchy's been put, because I've got a folder on my L drive. Oh, sorry, dyslexia. I have a folder on my L drive, and then a couple subfolders, and then opentoonz has its hierarchy of folders, and one of the project folders in there is the one I'm working on. So there's no problem with that. The question I had was, if I do something in opentoonz natively using opentoonz own built-in tools, you need to know where the heck is it saving stuff. Because what if you want to go do what I'm doing right now, which is paint it, edit it, change it, at a level that opentoonz isn't necessarily capable of. So that's the nut I'm trying to crack at the moment. But I'm not saying you're wrong, because you're right. We're kind of both right. The point I was trying to make is that you do not appreciate the nuance of where things are being saved and what's going on behind the scenes until you get into a more complicated project. And then all of a sudden you start going, wait a second, where's it putting this and where's it putting that? Especially its own native files, like TLV files. Because if it creates a TLV file, is that just a standard TIFF sequence? I think it is, but I'd like to know. And does it save the TIFFs in the same place it saves the TLV file? How does it store the TLV information? Because the TLV has metadata that lets it know how to interact with the palette, but yet the pictures themselves are listed as TIFF files, I think. So these are just the kinds of questions that are coming to mind for me. Okay, so anyway, and I know that this drawing looks really stupid, but there's a method to the madness. There's actually a method to the madness here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is actually make this more opaque again, and then I'm going to use the smudge tool, and let's kick the size up, kick the opacity down, because remember, this is going to be a background. It doesn't have to be particularly... Okay, I took the opacity down too far. Okay, I took the opacity down way too far. What's going on here? Ah, there's the problem. Sorry, guys. I was actually operating on the wrong layer, like a silly pilly pants. Thank you very much. I'm awesome, huh? Dr. Thumper, Dr. Thumper. Back in the 70s, there was a show. I think it was a Sid and Marty Krofft show on Saturday morning cartoons, but it was not a cartoon, and it was called, you guys can look it up, but it was called Dr. Shrinker. You could look it up on YouTube, because I know you can find the theme song and the introduction to the show. So I'm singing that for you, Dr. Thumper. That show was called Dr. Shrinker, Dr. Shrinker. It was about some guy on an island who like shrinks people. The whole show was about a guy who shrinks people. What's up with that? Not sure I'm digging the size so much. Okay, so this is going to have to definitely be merged down. Create a layer. And I think it blanked out and blanked back on. Sorry about that. OBS. OBS always likes to act funny. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to fill this with black. Boom. Move this down. In case you're wondering, we're using GIMP. Okay, and I'm going to merge this down after I fine-tune the opacity of it. Okay, there, it's starting to look right. Okay, but is that all? No. Okay, we're going to add a couple more levels of detail here. So let's merge this down. That looks cool. And remember, we still got our sketch behind it, so we're in good shape. One thing we're going to need is a gradient. Okay, and it's going to have to be a radial gradient. So let's go to the gradient tool, and let's go to addition is fine. The shape is radial, so that's good. And we're going from black to white? No. Hit the X key to reverse those, because we're going from white to black. Not quite. Not quite. Let's do that again. Okay, is GIMP acting stupid? All of a sudden everything appears to have frozen. So let's save our work just to be safe. One thing GIMP is really fast at is saving your work. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put this in, what the heck? Overlay mode? Maybe. Let's duplicate it. Okay, that didn't quite work. Kill that. Okay, where did our gradient go? That's kind of weird. Okay, yeah, that's not bad. Oh, I see. Okay, this is a GIMP 2.10 feature. This never used to work this way, but it's awesome that it does. Okay, see what's going on? GIMP is letting me interactively tweak how the gradient's going to apply. That's cool. Nice. I dig that. So as you guys can see, this is actually starting to look like the room. Okay, so we want to have that gradient because the light's supposed to be coming in through that window, yada yada yada. And let's turn the, okay, so we definitely have to have the opacity of this. Can we crank it down a little bit? No. Nope, we got to keep that full bore. So now what's interesting about this is this is actually going to be really tricky. What we really need to do, let's go up to the top here. What we really need to do now is some pretty serious painting. Before I do that, I'm going to save this and I'm going to export it. And it should, okay, it wants to save it as a ping. Okay, that's annoying. So now we need to go back and double check. dh.20, it's dh.0245 dh.0245.tiff. Okay. Now, is this going to break in opentoonz? Let's find out. If it does, it's no big tragedy because we can always re-import it into opentoonz. So what should happen now, file, save all. If I go ahead and reopen my scene, I don't know if I need to close opentoonz. So let's just reload it and see what happens. Okay, no problem. And I think it will refresh. So where did I put the background image? Okay, yeah, there it is. You can see from the icon that it got it right. So that's cool. So we can tweak the date. Oh, look at that. That looks pretty good, huh? So now we're going from this shot to this shot. So it's a little bit dark. It's a little bit dark, but I think that's okay. And we're going to have to put that, we'll put the shadow in as another level in opentoonz so that we can animate it, right? Okay, so but this definitely gets us on the right track. Let's look at this rendered. Okay, it's pretty bright. You can see, and by the way, this is something I've told you guys about repeatedly. Look at what opentoonz did again. It once again changed the scale of these drawings. This drawing sequence, which looked perfect before I reloaded the scene, is now screwed up. Can we fix it? Yes, we can fix it. We can fix it pretty easily. It's not a big deal, but it is ridiculous. This is actually why some of these earlier shots in the anime, I believe this one in particular, I believe this one, or maybe, I can't remember, it might be this one. But in opentoonz, they're completely screwed up. Not because of anything I did. opentoonz just decided to booger it up the way you just saw, because these guys were not scaled like that before we reopened the project file. opentoonz does that all the time. All the time. Could we solve that by making sure that the DPI of the project, the DPI of the camera, and the pixel ratio or the pixel size of the images we bring in are always uniform, always the same? Maybe. Maybe that would fix it. I think probably it would, but I don't know. So, okay, issue is the sandbox. Yeah, I don't use the sandbox at all. Yeah, well, that's true, except it's not on the C drive. I mean, in my case, I've chosen several custom folders. Under the project settings, you can force it to another location. Yeah, which is what I do. Watch my animation, criticize it, please. Yeah, just put a YouTube link somehow. I don't think you can post links in the chat, but you can sort of fake it. If you're, I'll tell you what, Dr. Thumper, if you're a subscriber, I'll find you as a subscriber and go to your channel and I'll see it. Okay, so anyway, back to work. Back to work. So now there's something else we're gonna have to fix. Even though it's annoying, it's not anywhere near as annoying as working with Krita. So, Okay, so now one thing I notice is this texture on the floor. So let's go ahead and address that here in GIMP. The first thing we want to do is I do want to do a little tweak to the gradient based on what I'm seeing in opentoonz. Yep, that's more like it. Okay, and then what we want to do is I want to add a layer, probably here, using the same brush that I used before, which I believe was this one. Let me just double check. Let's hit the P key, which is the hotkey for brushes in GIMP. And no, that's not the brush. Was it this one? I got to keep kicking the size up. I think that's the one. Okay, and basically, nope, that's not the one. I'll find it. It's here somewhere. Maybe it's this one. No, it's not that one. Nope. Did I already try that one? I think that's the one. I'm pretty sure. Doesn't look the same, but I'm pretty sure that was the. I'm pretty sure that was the right brush. What about this one? Oh, that's it. I think that's it. Okay, so I'm going to make this really big and go like that. Okay, and the only reason I'm doing that is because we're then going to put this in, let's say, overlay mode, because we're just adding a texture that's kind of sort of similar to what we saw in the other shot, right? Not too bad, not too bad. Patreon.com. Alright, man, I'll check it out. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Like, right this second, I'm going to go into Notepad and paste that into a text file so that I've got it for later. I'll go check it out later on. Okay. Okay, back to work. GIMP. Yes. So that texture looks pretty good. What if we... Yeah. I actually think that looks just fine. So now the cool thing is I should be able to hit Control E, which, as you can see down here, if you can see it, which you probably can't, is it exported it immediately just by hitting Control E in GIMP. It exported it. So now it should update here, but of course it doesn't. So once again, this is kind of unfortunate, but in opentoonz you do have to go ahead and reload the scene if you want to refresh the images that are in the scene. So hopefully it's not going to screw up even more of the scaling. Okay, so where are we starting? 245. Ah, there. Not bad. Not bad. Okay, it's too saturated. So I think what I'll do is, first of all, let's decrease the impact of that just a little bit. Okay. And, okay, so there's that. So I'm going to go ahead and merge this down. Or actually, I guess I don't need to merge it down. What I'll do is I will, and as you guys know, I'm always saving my work. I'm going to go through my filters, actually colors, hue saturation. The saturation on this layer is just a little too aggressive. And lightness is probably okay, but so I'm hitting Control C or Control S and Control E, which lets me instantly save the XCF file, which has all the layers and everything in it. Instantly exports it as a TIFF file, ready to bring into opentoonz. So cool beans. So that's that. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to invert it, pop it up to the top, and turn it down real quiet. Real quiet. Okay? Because that's just telling me where stuff's got to be. Now, the question becomes, if you guys can bear with me for half a second, I got to go browse in my picture folders and look at my image references. of backgrounds, and there was a I should say there is an image, yes, that is a kind of a Buddhist shrine kind of thing that should be something like that. I'm going to hit the M tool to move, and in GIMP it'll move the image because it's on top of the layer stack. But if it was not on top of the layer stack, like if it was like this, then it would almost certainly move the wrong layer. So M key, is that right? Are we getting the right key here, or is GIMP? Yeah, GIMP says it's still M, but is it Shift M? No, it's M. But it's trying to go back to the hue saturation tool. So there's the M key. And see, as you can see, it moved the wrong layer. So this layer is selected. So if I hit Shift, I believe that forces it to select the correct layer. And indeed it did. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move this like this, so this stuff kind of looks like it's in the background. And then we're going to duplicate that layer and crank the we're going to go to overlay mode here as well, but then we're going to really crank the contrast, because what we're trying to do here is just catch the highlights. Okay. Yeah, I definitely don't like the interactivity of that, but that looks pretty good. That does look pretty good. So if we turn that off, what if we turn that off? Ooh, that doesn't work at all. So now I want to really make this subtle, super subtle. And then I think, just to get my bearings, I'm going to go ahead and bring that into opentoonz. That looks pretty good. I'm not sure I'm so whippy on the sort of carpet thing there. So let me check something. Okay. Let's see what happens if we merge this down. Nope, it screwed it up. That's what I was afraid of. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit add a layer mask, and we're going to use white, which is full opacity. Here we're also going to add a layer mask, same thing. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the mask, and the idea in a layer mask is I can now paint the opacity. So by hitting the X key and toggling from white to black here, now if I take my brush, which that's definitely not the brush I want to be using, I can paint out the opacity of this part that I don't like. Okay, and then I also can take this mask, and I believe I can actually just hit Control C and then grab this mask. Come on, GIMP, don't act stupid on me. And hit Control V. Okay, I guess I need to anchor it. Okay, so that copied the mask from one layer to the other. So now they both have the same mask. And the brush strokes are a little aggressive there. You probably won't see it, but just to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and add a Gaussian blur to the mask to just soften that edge. Okay, so blur that a little bit. Now, again, hit Control C for that mask, Control V, anchor it in. Okay, so now we've got kind of that, yeah, you sleep, man, you sleep. Okay, so we got that. That means now this is looking pretty good. What's missing is Akari. Okay, so with that, I'm going to add a layer, and this is going to be the layer where we paint. I'm not quite sure how I want to do this. I think what I want to do is crank the opacity way down so that we just get a very subtle effect. Let's see. Okay, Gaussian blur. I don't know why the hotkeys don't seem to be working very well. So the first thing I'm going to do, okay, I guess having it that dark isn't really working, huh? Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is just block in the whole region of interest. Okay. So let's go ahead and make it opaque after all. Okay. And then I'm going to hit Control F, which will repeat the last filter. So that just took everything I just painted and added a bit of a Gaussian blur to it, because frankly it would be out of focus. So now if we turn this off, we can see just the faintest hint of Akari in there. And so now what we want to do is, and like I'm really spitballing here, folks, I'm kind of guessing, but I'm thinking if we add just a little bit of color. Okay, what I want to do here is crank down the opacity of this brush so that it just, okay, and then let's go here and undo that. Yes, there we go. Okay, and a little bit more saturation. Okay. And let's hit the smudge tool. Kind of blend that a little bit. So again, all we're trying to do is just suggest very vaguely what's going on here. Brush tool. Come on, man. A little darker. Come on, man. A little lighter. Okay. Okay. Do we like it? I think we like it. Let's hit Control E as well. And Jay Parks. Yeah, hey Jay. Welcome to the show. Yeah, GIMP 2.10 is definitely a step forward. So we're going to open a recent scene file and reload the project, because that will force the background image to refresh. And of course we were on what, frame 243 or something like that. Okay. Okay, not bad. The only problem I see, we're going to have to obviously put the shadows in there, but the only issue I'm seeing is that this background needs to have some suggestion of a ceiling, actually. Okay, so I'm going to add yet another layer, and we're going to use this tool, and we're going to essentially just cut this off like that. Okay, and hit the enter key, makes it a selection, and we're going to use the fill tool to make it black. And then let's just turn it down a little bit. Okay. It's actually okay if it's a little bit transparent, because it sort of suggests that it actually almost suggests that the ceiling might be reflective in here. But okay. So here's what I'm going to do. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to add a, well, actually let's just use the eraser. Eraser tool. Okay. And what I'm after here is to go like this. Oh, the opacity. I need to crank the opacity up. Okay, why is it? All right, I'm going to just draw across here, and I can see that the eraser doesn't seem to be doing anything. Not really sure why. Maybe... Wait a second. What the heck? Oh, I see what's going on. Okay, my bad. I believe... Yep, I was actually operating like a goofball on the wrong layer. Silly, silly me. Okay, so now let's hit Control-Shift-A. And I said we were going to make this a little bit transparent. Something like that. And then with the eraser tool, what I'm doing is I'm going to erase out a little bit of this. So it seems like some stuff is kind of attached to the ceiling. I don't know if that's really selling the idea, but that's what I'm after here. And then maybe if we take a brush, it's just a faint suggestion that there's some rafters, maybe you might say. Okay, so let me grab this. Let's go to the brush tool. Now remember, this is a background. It's not supposed to be a work of Da Vinci. It's just supposed to serve as a background. So I'm thinking what we want to do is keep the opacity up a little more. But let's put a slight blur on this layer. Yep, one more. Let's do it again. Control F. There we go. That looks better. Message retracted. Dude, what did you say that you shouldn't have said? Okay. Control S. Sorry. Got a little glitch going on here in my other window. Control S. Control E. opentoonz. Frame 245. Let's rock and roll and see what we get. Boink. And we got that malformed image sequence. 245. Okay, not bad. Not bad. I'm not really convinced of Akari in the background, so we might want to tweak the levels a bit more. Where is... Got to go to my schematic view. I thought I had... I was thinking I had... Ah, there's the problem. This is turned off. Okay. So now when we go back here, you can see this is what we're really going to see. Okay, there's what I've got in opentoonz, but that's what we're actually going to see. So clearly that's going to be okay. Let's go ahead and do a... I tell you what we'll do. Let's grab the shot prior as well. A little bit. Just grab some extra. And then let's run a preview. And then, guys, I'm going to sign off here. I got some other things I need to get to. Okay, let's go back to the top of that. Yeah, so those... Yeah, and look, opentoonz also screwed up the scaling on his ponytail, because he had a ponytail that was perfectly matched up to him. You know, it looked fine. Now it's messed up. This stuff over here, like on the edge there, that okay, you know, no problem. We can work with that. But this business of like completely rescaling stuff when you reload the file, really annoying. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and run a preview of this from the top, actually. Because before I wrap up today, I guess I'd kind of like to just assess the whole state of the project. I'm feeling way better now than I was a few days ago when I was trying to work with Blender and Krita. Okay, so from the tippy top, quick review. We open on the Tibetan monastery with the nice birds flying through the scene. She's sleeping. The ninjas are climbing. Uh-oh, a rock falls. Boom. She kind of rolls over, and actually I guess I could play this. It's just this part here has so many layers that it won't play back in real time. So the birds flying by, yada yada yada. Hit the go button there, Dave. Okay, so I'm going to turn the sound effects down actually for the moment. So that looks pretty good. Yeah, it's definitely pretty hot. Could definitely use a score, some music behind it too. Okay, so that's where we're at, going into what we're working on now. And so that picks up here. We need to redo her eyes. The keyframing on her camera move is a little off as well. The scale is all screwed up. Okay, you know, it's not too bad. She needs to start moving sooner. Okay, so that keyframe needs to be adjusted. And boy, I can't believe opentoonz boogered all that up. But it'll only take about 10 minutes to fix. So anyway, I think that's it for today then. With that, I'm going to stop live streaming, and I'll save this in the anime live stream playlist. And I think that would be it for today. Thanks.